What is up, nerds and nerdettes? It's me again, AJ Kunze, with another episode of The Poll. I apologize for my voice sounding even more nasally than it already does with my Wisconsin accent. Don't you know it, eh? But I have a very brutal and aggressive head cold right now, so we're gonna have to deal with it. I'm sick for two reasons. One, I live in a giant icebox called Illinois. And two, I work in a hospital, which is basically a disease factory that functions with the productivity of a World War II munitions plant. But enough about my head germs, let's go ahead and get to comic books. Okay, we got all new Hawkeye #1, written by Jeff Lemire and drawn by Ramon Perez. Now, I love Matt Fraction's Hawkeye only slightly less than I love my own mother, but not less than I love your mother, because your mother's fine. Anyway, I love Jeff Lemire and I love Hawkeye, so this was basically a marriage made in heaven, right? No, I was a little concerned when I heard that he was taking over the book because Jeff Lemire and Matt Fraction are incredibly different writers. Lemire's stories tend to occupy darker, sadder places than Matt Fraction's does. Not that Matt Fraction doesn't have that range, but that's not really the character that Hawkeye is. So I was kind of worried there's going to be conflict between the voice of the character and the voice of the creator. This Hawkeye does seem a bit more dour than we're used to in Fraction's run, but Lemire does a really good job of keeping his voice and Hawkeye's voice in harmony. But you can definitely see the tone of this story going a lot more in line with like Lemire's Rock World work, as opposed to that heist movie sort of feel that Fraction's Hawkeye had. Also, special shout out to Mr. Perez. The art in this book is awesome, and it's a perfect gap bridging David Aja to this new generation of Hawkeye. It definitely has that same sort of style, but when Lemire goes into these flashback sequences, Perez actually removes all the panels from the book. And what we get are these basically single page mosaics where the art kind of naturally brings divides and kind of naturally makes panels. It's really beautiful and special, and I found myself wanting the entire book to be like that, especially in scenes where the normal present day Hawkeye art mixes with the flashback artwork. It's really incredible, really special, best art of the week. It wouldn't be The Poll if I didn't talk about a Rick Remender book. Black Science is back, written by Rick Remender, of course, and drawn by Mateo Scalera. Listen, I used to be in love with Black Science. In fact, I did a video about it. But then Black Science got too insane. Think William Dafoe on mushrooms wearing clown makeup insane. It became kind of hard to follow. Words are hard. It became kind of hard to follow. To give it credit though, this issue does a lot to streamline the story. It kind of brings everything back into focus, and it kind of detours away from all the crazy multiple universes collapsing on themselves and characters meeting themselves and then killing themselves, and I'm just the Twilight Zone on acid. It becomes a much more economic story, and it's stronger for it. So if you fell off of Black Science and you're looking to get back on, this is the issue to do it. Comic books. Last week I made the comment that not enough people talk about Low, and I feel like the same is true about Rat Queens. Rat Queens is written by Curtis Webb. I'm not going to do the joke about how I can't see people's names. It's by this guy. And art by an even worse name. I've already played out the over-explaining of books to death, so to be simple, this is a fantasy comedy, incredibly sharp and well-written with super interesting characters. It plays heavily on the Dungeons & Dragons and roguelike sort of references, but it never feels like it's playing to those communities because the characters are so interesting that you don't need to get those references. You can just enjoy the story for what it is. I love Rat Queens. It's one of the most underrated series out there. Unfortunately, it has fallen into a trap that a lot of creator-owned works kind of fall into. It's completed its first major story arc, and it's kind of struggling to figure out where to go next. So what's happening is we're having a lot of issues where we're exploring the origins of all the characters. This is something you see a lot in comic books when a series is sort of trying to find its footing and basically read any Gareth Ennis book ever. The good news is it's really well written, so even if it is sort of dancing in cliche, it's still entertaining. And this is a solid issue, but it really feels like this series needs to push the narrative as opposed to just sort of wandering around trying to figure out what it is that comic books do. Wow, I almost made it through this entire episode and forgot to talk about Big Man Plans. Big Man Plans is great. I know I've been liking too many books recently. The Image needs to start releasing worse books, so I have something to complain about. This is the latest book from Eric Powell. He's the guy who made The Goon. The Goon was great. This is great. What do you want from me? Go complain to him if you want me to bitch about something that's bad. Anywho, this book is basically a Charles Bronson movie if Charles Bronson was a dwarf. Is dwarf derogatory? I don't want to use midget because I feel like that's a bad word and I don't want to belittle the people. And I said belittled, and I swear to God that was not intentional, but it was very funny. Anyway, it's about basically it's a one-man revenge action movie starring a little person. The fact that the main character, who's only ever referred to as Big Man, is a little person, it's played completely straight. And it's not a joke or a gag or a gimmick. It is a quintessential part of what makes that character who he is. The trials those people go through in the way that they're marginalized by society go into molding who he is. And specifically how his family reacts to who he is growing up, how that disintegrates his family, and how that turns him into a hardened person. This is very much a sort of grindhouse sort of book. It's ridiculous and big and violent and gory and totally aware that it's all those things. But at the same time, it's super endearing because the character is really real. It's grounded. It makes you connect. So when there's a scene where the character puts a grenade in a clown coffee cup and blows up a diner, yeah, that's silly and stupid and awesome, but it has context within a meaningful story. And that sounds weird and contradictory, and it absolutely is, but it works. It's a real testament to the skill of the creative team that they're able to create something compelling and meaningful out of an elevator pitch that is so silly. It's a 4-part series, and this is a really, really strong pilot for it. If I had to recommend one book this week, it would be Big Man Plans, as weird as that sounds. But definitely check this out. This is one of those kind of special books that doesn't come along very often, so I would definitely make sure that you don't miss it. So, that's it. Yep, there it is, another episode of The Pull. I want to thank you all again for listening to me rant nonsensically about comic books while I'm high on cough syrup. Gotta love that purple drink. Make sure you give that subscribe button a little clicky loo. For every new subscriber we get, I will invent one new method of faster than light speed travel. Those subscribes, likes, and comments, you know, they help us out. But what really helps us out and what we really are asking you guys to do is just share our videos. Spread the word. Bring more people into this community that we're building. Anywho, that got too serious and businesslike. So, farts. I'll see you next time, guys, and get out of here and go read comics.